get down to business with Matthew Wright in India Willoughby with the stories that will get a lot of you talking today. India, good morning to you. We've got Matthew here in the studio.
Morning.
And Matthew, first of all, schools, right? There's all this talk back to schools going back in Scotland in 2 weeks' time. And, well, here, what is it, 3, 4 weeks? It's pretty soon anyway, when it's going to happen.
Well, there's we have to put it in the context, don't we, that at the end of May, the unions were complaining that the government had changed their advice on schools opening 41 times in England. The papers today, The Sun and the Mail, are very anti the teaching unions. They say there's 200 demands. They're trying to break the system before it started. Well, I looked at those 200 demands. They include, can we make sure there's hand sanitizer in classrooms? Can we make sure we promote the 2-metre socially distancing message all the way through? They're not outrageous demands. I think we really need to see government and unions working together on this, or it will be a disaster.
But how long is it going to take them? I mean, they've been talking and talking and talking, and you say,
Or have
at what
they?
point do you say, can you ever make a classroom 100% safe?
You can't.
Can you make anywhere
You can't make anywhere
100%
100% safe. Although there was a Tory MP earlier today saying that absolutely children would be safe. And that language, I don't know, is particularly helpful. But I would urge unions and government to work together on this. Otherwise, it's not going to work well.
India, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, he said it's a moral obligation that we get the children back to school. Do you agree?
I think we've reached that stage, Ruth. I honestly do. I think we've got to hold our nose and just get through it. Otherwise, we're heading for education stagnation. It's almost half a year now since some pupils actually saw a real teacher or were in a classroom. And when it gets to that stage, how can you possibly catch up? So I think if you're going to allow pubs, and you're actually encouraging people to go to pubs and restaurants now, and they're chock-a-block. We've all been out on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last week. They're chocker. If you're telling me that that's less risky than a classroom, I'm not buying it. I simply don't get it.
A teacher can go to the pub for a drink.
Yep.
Yeah.
But can't go to the
A
classroom.
teacher may be in the pub having a drink for 25 minutes. A teacher in a school environment could be in close proximity to 20, 30 children for 8 hours a day, let alone other adults, and other interactions. So the amount of time we're exposed to the virus is also a factor that has to be calculated. But I'm broadly with India. If pubs are open, then schools should be. There's this discussion about, well, if schools don't go back, maybe we'll have to close pubs, which I think is, again, putting people against people rather than trying to bring the country together with a single goal in mind, which is to get children back.
India, what do you make of next Thursday, when these GCSE results are going to come out, these A-level results, for instance, are going to come out, and there's a big hoo-ha about grades that will be awarded, some may be downgraded or whatever. There could also be a train of thought which says just be grateful for what you're getting and that you didn't have to sit the exam in the first place. Well, I mean, how can you really debate, well, I should have got that, you've awarded me that, but I should have got that? How do you debate that, India?
It's a really tough one, Eamonn. I know they had the controversy in Scotland where many pupils were actually marked down, that were expecting much higher grades on their coursework, and they came a cropper up the system. There is no easy way around this at all. I think you've got to be fair to all pupils. I think there's got to be an appeals process in place as well, where they're going to be swamped, actually. There's going to be lots of pupils who feel they deserve a much higher grade instead of a guesswork assumption by a panel somewhere. And that's going to kick in. And it's just going to make the whole system a lot busier.
Yeah. But it had to be guesswork.
It's got to be something. Exams work for some children, don't work for others. Teacher assessment is going to work for some people. My teachers hated me. They thought it was a sort of loud-mouthed know-it-all. So this would have been a disaster. I mean, unbelievable. So I preferred exams, but there are winners and losers, whichever way you go.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, as India says, there'll be a lot of appeals.
Yeah. India, 151 migrants said to have made the journey across the Channel from France to the UK over the weekend. French officials are now saying they want Britain to pay £30 million towards beach controls to help tackle this crisis. What do you make of this?
I think it's awful. I'm in the camp, and I think a lot of people are very quiet about this. And thank heavens for Nigel Farage. I'm going to say that. Thank heavens for Nigel Farage for raising this topic. The fact that the French are actually escorting them over is awful. I can also see the side, though, that it is our responsibility now. You know, we've got Brexit. We are leaving the EU. I think we should take control. And instead of spending 30 million, I think it's 100 million over 3 or 4 years that we've actually paid the French to look after this problem. I'd go down the Trump route. Why not have a nice spiky barbed wire fence somewhere down the channel, very rubber dinghy, unfriendly?
Just wonder,
see how that goes.
Some of these people, the ones I saw interviewed yesterday that were coming over, were Iraqis who we bombed in what many people felt was an illegal and unjust war. I mean, if we go and bomb a country without a UN mandate, do we not have to take some responsibility for people losing their homes, losing their jobs, losing everything? And do we not have any obligation to these people at all when we bomb them out of their own homes? Nigel Farage has taken us out of the EU, making it harder for us to negotiate with France. So he's made it harder.
Of course we can take responsibility, but instead of using the English channel, they should use the legal channel, because there is a route into the UK. And all you have to do is fill in, be vetted, and everyone's happy. I'm not against immigration. I'm all for it, in fact. But illegally, as it is, I think there was a record amount last Thursday, 250 or so people coming across on one day. It's ludicrous. It's out of hand, and people are fed up.
Tiny number of people relative to the number of people we drove out, bombed out of their homes. I mean, tiny number of people.
So do you think Priti Patel is right to say we're not handing over the money unless we...
Priti Patel has been talking about taking back control for years. When's she going to do it? I would suggest that the narrative she's pursuing is never going to work. What we have to ask ourselves internationally is, why do people want to risk life and limb travelling halfway across the world to get to our country? That's the issue. Not, can we shut them off at France? Can we shut them off at Dover? Why are they coming?
With the greatest respect, they are travelling halfway around the world, but they're passing through up to 7 safe countries.
Well, they may not feel safe there. The UN Council on Refugees that the UK helped draft says that they can claim their status here. But we've drafted the UN, or helped draft the UN guidelines on refugees, and if people don't feel safe and they want to come to this country, under those guidelines, they are allowed to do so.
Not illegally, though.
Not illegally.
Let's talk about seasonal issues, Christmas moving to Easter. Giles Brandreth says that the panto season is when most theatres are full and make most of their money. If they definitely can't happen at Christmas, why not postpone them until Easter? In the 19th century, pantomimes were often produced at Easter. I mean, there's nothing particularly Christmassy. They happen at Christmas, but they don't have Christmas themes, pantos.
There are already, or certainly last Easter 2019, before COVID, there were Easter pantomimes running then. It's sort of become a new thing in this country. The downside is my wife met a lot of her musical theatre friends last Friday, and they're saying, as far as they're hearing, some of them in established shows, that there is nothing going on for them. And the general view is, unless some kind of vaccine is found or a miracle happens, that theatres in this country are going to be in just as bad a position come Easter as they will be come Christmas, as they are now. And desperate, dire straits. It is dire straits.
Would you go and see a pantomime at Easter in India?
Oh, I'd love to. I think Giles is a wise old sausage. I think it's a great idea. I think there'd be a fantastic take-up for it. The schools are off. Everyone's in the Easter mood. It's as close as you're going to actually get to a Christmas thing. Bring it on. Right.
Here's a question for all 4 of us here. Who is your favourite James Bond? This is in response to a Radio Times survey. 14,000 fans voted in this. It was an interesting form of voting, But anyway, it worked out, but it's very complicated.
They've done it like a World Cup, haven't they? There's a sort of knockout system.
Well, mine's Sean Connery.
Mine would have probably been Sean Connery or Pierce Brosnan. I like Pierce Brosnan.
I like Pierce too.
But Timothy Dalton came second in this poll, and that one...
And Daniel Craig, I don't think
he didn't make it at all.
Daniel Craig didn't come anywhere. Who's your favourite Bond, India?
It's Daniel Craig. Everyone thinks that. I know obviously, you like Piers. He looks like Kevin O'Sullivan, Matthew Wright. You're good friends. So that's probably why you're voting for him. But I think Radio Times people who voted for this, no disrespect, but they're probably of a certain age. Carton blanket over the thing. So Sean Connery is going to be their favourite.
Yeah.
Still mine. Who's yours?
Yours, Eamonn?
I can honestly say and I've watched them all and studied them all. I don't think there's ever been a bad one. Even George Lazenby.
George Lazenby was okay.
Yeah, for one off. But two things. I think Pierce was absolutely superb. I agree with you. I think Sean Connery was superb.
Yeah.
The one, though, I grew to know, like, and love was Roger Moore. He was my Bond, and he was the most lovely superstar I've
It wasn't
ever,
his fault,
ever
1970s fashions, was it?
And he had 2 films on ITV over the weekend.
Roger Moore was actually the first choice to take over from Sean Connery. He was originally going to do On Her Majesty's Secret Service, but was already under contract to be in The Saint. A little bit tricky.
That's right. And Pierce Brosnan, of course, he had his own
I'm getting you on my
stories.
team for any quiz nights, India.
Yeah. Guys, thank you very much
very
indeed.
much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.